Well, I'm sorry about all the news videos of late. Hopefully you're not all totally sick to death of them by now, but there is just so much happening at the moment. The news videos kind of have to keep coming. In fact, it seems the more people that claim this hobby is dying, the more stuff gets announced, as if directly to prove them wrong. And I love it. It is fantastic. So let's tune in. Well, you have tuned in, but let's settle down for another month of model railway news. We'll start with Hornby because there's lots of very interesting news from them. First of all, an update on their Great Western Saint class. It's a new engineering sample, which looks very, very fancy. Now, don't forget this is an extremely expensive model. Impossibly expensive, you might say. And so it's really lovely to see a lot of metal parts on this thing. Look at the chimney. That's a turned metal chimney by the looks of it. That is the sort of quality feature we are expecting, given how much this loco costs. I think also, looking at this sample, the black sections are die-cast. So at the very least, we have a die-cast running plate on this. So it's not a plasticky, cheap-looking model, at least not at the moment. Now, I can actually go a little bit further on the Hornby Saint class because one of my viewers, William, sent me a photo, I think from an exhibition, showing a decorated Saint class sample, which is pretty exciting because I haven't seen anything like that online. So here it comes, courtesy of my member, William. Look at this thing. Oh my goodness. Now, is it the lighting? Is it the photo? I don't know, but the finish on this engine looks more realistic than I think I've ever seen on a ready-to-run before. That sort of satin finish looks almost exactly like the metal body of a real steam locomotive. No kidding, probably the best finish I've ever seen. So this model from Hornby obviously costs a fortune. Close your eyes if you've got a weak stomach. Here's the price. It's a really expensive model, of course, but it looks as though the standard of this model is absolutely through the ceiling. So I have to say well done to Hornby. I mean, their models do cost a lot. They are quite few and far between. They don't really produce that many 00 locomotives anymore, but what they do produce has been absolutely incredible. We had Locomotion #1 nearly a year ago, astonishing model. Then we've had the J52s and the J13s. Well, they knocked Accurascale and Rapido out of the park, I think, anyway. And then we've got this Saint class on the way, which again looks as though it's going to really push boundaries. So you know what, I think there's a lot to be said for a manufacturer going a little more slowly and delivering something of quality. I think this is something that maybe other manufacturers can learn from. Speaking of samples, Hornby have revealed new decorated samples of the new DP1 Deltic prototype, which once again looks absolutely amazing. As you can see, the colours really pop now that we're seeing it with all the paint. And of course, don't forget that this loco is made entirely out of metal. So this is going to be once again a really good quality model. And according to Rails of Sheffield, who got to weigh this apparently, the weight of it is over 1 kilogram, which I can hardly believe. I don't think I've ever had a locomotive weighing more than 1 kilogram, at least not a regular-ish size diesel. So if it's 1 kilogram, that is just going to be absolutely mind-blowing. But it also means that the mechanism is going to have to be something else entirely. That mechanism and that motor is going to have to be massively powerful. It's going to have to be geared for power and not speed. It is going to have to be the greatest mechanism we have ever seen in model trains in order to shift a 1 kilogram locomotive, never mind any number of coaches you might want to haul with it. So yeah, the pressure is really on from Hornby to deliver a good running model now, being that it weighs over 1 kilogram, if that's even true, and I think it is. They have said on the spec that it uses a coreless motor, which is curious, isn't it? Really interested to see how that's going to run. But you know, coreless motors, they are pretty efficient, so hopefully that will be the right choice for this loco. Also looking forward to seeing close-ups of this loco, maybe seeing it for myself. Obviously there are question marks on how the detail is going to look on the die-cast body. Hopefully it will be nice and crisp. Right, more news on Hornby then. They have responded to the video I made the other week. So I made a video about the Hornby Railroad Class 67 having a 3-pole motor when it was actually spec'd to have a much better 5-pole motor. And since that video, I investigated more Hornby Railroad diesels and found that actually more of them were misdescribed. So last week I had a phone call with Martin Weaver, who is the managing director at Hornby, and let me say, the guy is great. I do think Hornby are in much better hands now. I think generally their leadership team seems to have a lot better attitude than the old one. But anyway, Martin explained to me what had happened. So the spec on their website that said these locos had 5-pole motors was wrong. They were supposed to have 3-pole motors. It was just whoever set up the website put in the wrong information. So that answers a big question. A lot of people in the comments were saying they thought the factory had screwed Hornby over and fitted cheaper motors than Hornby asked for. It sounds as though that's not the case. It sounds as though the 3-pole motors were supposed to be there. So corrections have been made to the Hornby website now. The motor is no longer specified on here at all. And according to Hornby, there was never any intention of misleading people. It was apparently an honest mistake, so I will pass that message on. And according to Hornby, the plan moving forward is not to specify what motor is used in more basic models. So if it's a premium model and it's got a 5-pole motor or a coreless motor, let's say, they will specify. But if it's a railroad diesel with a 3-pole motor, they're not going to say that anymore, which I guess makes sense. Their explanation for this was they don't want to drag down basic models by putting basic specs on, which I guess makes sense. And I guess also not specifying the motor will help them avoid issues like we saw last week. But also, I kind of wish they would specify the motor, even if it's not that impressive, because it's just good to be transparent, isn't it? So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but if you want to still tune into my reviews, I'll tell you what motors are in them. Alternatively though, of course, I think maybe just 5-pole motors would be better to use, because we've seen that they're not expensive. We've seen that they do work a lot better than 3-pole motors. Maybe it would be better just for them to fit 5-pole motors where available. I don't know. But anyway, that's the situation. Impressed by Hornby's response. I think their leadership team is pretty good, pretty competent. I think they are doing pretty good things at Hornby now. So good news to hear them respond as well. I don't think the old Hornby leadership team ever got in touch to explain something I'd picked up on. So again, all signals are looking pretty positive, aren't they? Which is great. Okay, let's talk about Bachmann USA then. Now, there were some pretty bombshell announcements made recently, but I missed them. I saw them, but I forgot to put them into the news. I guess I'm too rigged up to cover British stuff, and American stuff doesn't go on my radar, but they are bombshell announcements and I think they do deserve a mention. So a couple of exciting additions to Bachmann's Thomas & Friends range in 00 or HO are on the way. And first of all, that is the Flying Scotsman with moving eyes. This is going to be all new tooled, and apparently it's coming in 2026. Now, we don't know much about Flying Scotsman yet. We don't know the price, we don't know the specs. We know he's got the face though, so he's going to look like he does in Thomas & Friends. And we also know that he's going to have the double tenders as well, which is quite interesting. But I think what interested me even more than all of this was what this is going to mean for Bachmann. Once this model is made, Bachmann are going to have a very powerful model on their hands, aren't they? I don't mean powerful in terms of pulling power, in terms of what they can do with it. Obviously, Flying Scotsman is the world's most famous steam locomotive, and once Bachmann have this model at their disposal, they will have a kind of toy-grade electric Flying Scotsman. What they could do with that is virtually endless. Are we going to see a budget train set with Flying Scotsman in it? Are they going to do what they did with their 009 Talaclin locos? It was supposed to be Skarloey, whatever. They took Skarloey's face off it, put a regular smokebox door on it. Hey presto, you've got a more realistic model. I feel like they'd be crazy not to do that with Flying Scotsman. So that is kind of my hope / prediction. I hope once Flying Scotsman with the face comes out, they'll be able to do a regular budget Flying Scotsman as well, which I think would be amazing. Obviously Hornby have their more realistic premium ones. but a cheaper train set Flying Scotsman, which is fully electric, a little bit above toy grade, but still basic, that would go down really well, I think. So there's that. There's a couple of diesels as well. They've announced mainland diesel with no image on here yet, but apparently he's on the way. And also Sydney, that might be an older announcement, and I'm guessing he's just going to use their Arian Burt tooling, maybe with different paintwork, maybe with a different face or whatever. But either way, I think that's worth a mention. Also, Bachmann USA have made a non-Thomas announcement, which I think might be of interest. So they have announced the return of their Do It Clinton 040 Era 1 train set. Now, at the moment, I don't have one of these, but it has been around for a really long time. I think it came out in the 1980s. So it's not a new model by any means, but it is coming back. And according to the listings, it has been modified to include an updated motor for superior performance. So I assume they've probably designed a new chassis for this maybe. I would assume, looking at the size of the engine, that it's now going to have a coreless motor so that it runs very nicely. And it is a train set rather than a train pack. It comes with the loco, 3 passenger cars, an oval of track, a driver apparently, which is pretty cool, and a controller, etc. And there's no price available yet, but it's certainly an interesting project. So this might be one that I have to get to review, provided it doesn't cost £1 billion. This is Bachmann, it very well could be, or why not make it 2 billion, Bachmann? I don't know, then you'd be very, very rich indeed, wouldn't you? Alternatively, I might try and grab one of the older train sets and see what that's like in the meantime. But either way, exciting stuff. Do It Clinton, is that how you say it? I don't know, is coming back. Up next then, we have a very major announcement from Ellis Clark Trains and Clark Railworks. They have announced a brand new locomotive in both 00 scale and O scale, which is quite unusual. You know, we have had some manufacturers like Dapol produce the same loco in both scales, but not at the same time. Well, Ellis Clark has announced a brand new L&YR Class 21 Pug. So we'll start with the 00 version. They have announced 11 different pugs, all with different liveries, of course. And these range from the original L&YR livery all the way up to BR livery, with a few quirky ones thrown into the mix as well, plus prints, of course, in this pretty maroon livery. And the elephant in the room is that there is already a pug on the market in 00 scale. It's made by Hornby, and quite luckily for Ellis Clark, it is absolutely dreadful. I reviewed one of these not too long ago. If you want to see that review, I'll pop a link in the top corner now. It cost me a fortune, and it was so bad that it made me realise just how much we need a new 00 scale pug. And thanks to Clark Railworks, that's what we've got. So, unlike the Hornby one, the spec for the Ellis Clark model is very high. So it's going to have sprung buffers where appropriate. Some of them have dumb buffers, of course, so those won't be sprung. It's going to have mostly die-cast construction, which is great. So this is going to be a good quality model, again, unlike Hornby's. A semi-open chassis, I'm not sure what that means. Maybe that means underneath you'll be able to sort of see through the frames to the valve gear. I'm guessing that's probably what it means. It's going to have a fully detailed cab. They have a render of this. I mean, again, if you've seen the Hornby model, you know what a revelation this cab is. And it looks fantastic as well, as far as cabs go. A major improvement. It's going to have NEM couplings, again, a first for one of these pugs. A firebox glow, so that's lighting inside the cab. Accessories, including etched plates and other etched details fitted as well, fantastic. DCC ready, again, unlike the Hornby one, with a Plux 12-pin DCC socket, and it's going to run on a modern coreless motor, not a giant behemoth of a motor which basically fills the entire cab. Again, seems like not too much to ask for, but according to Hornby, no, we want to fill the cab with a motor in 2024. Goodness me, what a world we live in. So clearly this is going to be a very high spec model. It's going to be high quality, knowing Ellis Clark, and it certainly has a lot of features. And so, as you'd probably expect, this is reflected in the price. It's another very expensive model. So for the DCC ready version, we're talking £150, which compared with the last brand new 040 saddle tank that I can remember, that's the Dapol Hawthorne Leslie, is a lot of money. Those Hawthorne Leslies now cost £99.95 at the retailers, and they have many of the same features, including being mostly made from metal. Now, looking at the renders, maybe this Ellis Clark Pug is more complex in its detail. Yeah, maybe it is, but £50 more complex, I'm not entirely sure. And I do think the price of this model plus their timing of when they've announced it could be a potential pitfall for Ellis Clark. So they have announced this early, and apparently the 00 version is not due to arrive until late 2026 or 2027. Bearing in mind also we usually see delays with models like this, so it might be even beyond that. So they have announced early, and given how many people have been asking for a new Pug produced to high standards, it does seem possible that another manufacturer might be working on one. And if that manufacturer is Dapol or Accurascale, it seems quite likely that they will be able to do better than £150. So for me, I feel like this could be a bit of a dangerous situation for Ellis Clark Trains and Clark Railworks. No doubt the model will be excellent, but I think they are sitting ducks for product duplication. And as we saw with the Lomac wagon, when they found themselves producing a duplicate model last time, they were not able to compete on price. In this case, it was against Rapido. So yeah, that's my hot take. I think Ellis Clark announcing this model as early as this and with such a high price as this will have left them a little bit vulnerable to get duplicated. Like I say, if Dapol were to do one, if Hornby were to do one, I wouldn't be surprised to see their pugs £30 less or something. So very interesting, one to look out for, I think. And then in terms of the O-gauge version, it's much the same but with even more specs, including an opening smoke box door with full detail behind it. That sounds great. Full inside working motion as well. That's quite impressive for a relatively small engine. It's also going to have a removable cab roof, removable slide bar covers, a Plux 22 DCC socket this time, and a price of £325. Again, that price is pretty up there compared with other 040 tank engines available. I mean, the Dapol B4 040, that is an amazing quality loco with frankly quite similar features, and yet at the retailers it's £125 less expensive. And even Dapol's much larger pannier, which I mentioned because that also has working valve gear between the frames, is still £100 cheaper. But I do think Ellis Clark is much less likely to see this model duplicated in O-scale. Obviously, the market for O-scale is much smaller. I think the chances of multiple manufacturers working on a Pug in O-scale at the same time is much lower. So it is expensive, but I think they will get away with this at a guess. Plus, compared with the Black 5 by Ellis Clark, which was basically £1,000, I do think £325 does seem to be quite a lot more reasonable, quite frankly. If we saw a 00 scale Pug release for a third of the price of a 00 scale Black 5, we'd be quite pleased, wouldn't we? So yeah, the price is very high. It's high compared with Dapol, but it's not that high compared with Ellis Clark's other models. So very, very interesting. If you do want to pre-order one of these Pugs, I'll pop affiliate links down in the description. Right, moving back to Bachmann then, but Bachmann UK, or Bachmann Europe this time, they have announced another brand new locomotive, but this time in N-scale under the Graham Farish brand. And their announcement video had noticeably more energy than usual.
I think you're right, because we're at Accurascale Railway Centre!
And I've just realised I might have to take some responsibility for this after what I said about some of their previous presentations. Good God, what have I created?
Accurascale Railway Centre!
Anyway, moving on from that as swiftly as humanly possible, they've announced a brand new hull class. Weird.
Sidcup Railway Centre!
Anyway, back to Earth. It does have quite an amazing spec. So it looks from the sample images like it has a die-cast body, but it doesn't. It is a plastic body with a metal colour for now, but it will have a die-cast metal running plate. It's going to have a coreless motor to run it, pickup from the loco and the tender, which is great, bearings on the driving wheels and on the tender wheels as well, which is a step up in terms of quality. It's going to have metal valve gear, a next 18-pin DCC socket, and traction tyres fitted to the rear driving wheels. So a bit of a question mark over the weight of the model then, but otherwise I do think it looks excellent. It looks to be very nicely finessed, with the possible exception of the crank pins. Yeah, these look quite chunky, don't they? Which is to be expected with N-Gage to an extent, but maybe we'd hope for a bit more realism given the prices. And what about the prices then? Well, again, if you've got something solid to hold on to, I recommend holding on to it for dear life now. So the RRP for this thing is £189.95. God blimey. So that's 00 scale prices and beyond. And even at the retailers, it's £161.45. So very much 00 scale prices, and right off the bat I'm going to say it, for that kind of money I'd expect an extremely heavy loco which doesn't need traction tyres. Needed to get that off my chest. Detail wise though, they've got different tenders. There's the Collet tender and the Hawksworth tender. I think these are being used again from the Castle class by Graham Farish. They've also got two different smokebox door designs. It's going to have metal handrails, die-cast wheels, turned metal buffers, which is great at N-Gage, a fully detailed backhead with some separate detail, hopefully fully painted as well, although I noticed there is no lighting in this cab, which seems a shame for the price. There's also a surprisingly small selection available with just 4 different liveries to choose from. So you've got early BR Green Ragley Hall, you've got a late BR Green Kinlet Hall, and only one Great Western livery this time, that's Raveningham Hall, and plus an early BR Black, that's Fountains Hall. So a surprisingly limited range really for a brand new tooled loco, but I would expect more to get announced in the future. This is quite typical from Bachmann. They'll just announce a few to begin with, and then in a future quarterly announcement I think we'll get another batch of them. But yeah, interesting to see yet another Great Western locomotive, this time in N-Gage though. And I have to say this model is looking great so far, but I do also have to say I am not impressed with the price of this model. At £161 something at the retailers, that is almost exactly the same price as Dapol's Manor in N-Gage. Yet Dapol's model has a die-cast boiler, not a plastic one, as we see on the Bachmann model. It's got much the same specs as well, except it does have working lighting in the cab. Again, the Bachmann doesn't have this. So I think for the same money, Bachmann do seem to be delivering less than other manufacturers here, and dare I say it, as usual.
Sidcup Railway Centre!
Up next then, just a mini update from Accurascale, and they've announced a couple of reruns of previously popular models. So run 2 of their Class 60s has been announced, which includes a variety of liveries, including EWS, Colas Rail, we've got the DB Puma Grey, and an Accurascale exclusive Teenage Cancer Trust livery. And the proceeds from this loco will go towards the Teenage Cancer Trust, which is the only UK charity dedicated to supporting those aged 13 to 24 with cancer. What a world we live in. You know, you can't imagine anything more horrifying for a teenager than that, can you? So it's an incredibly worthy cause, and hats off to Accurascale for that. They're aiming to raise £10,000 with this project, which I'm sure will do an unbelievable amount of good. So if you're interested in one of these, links down in the description. I don't think I'll make that one an affiliate link. I don't want to be creaming off the top of this one. But yeah, go and support them if it's something you're interested in. They've also announced a new batch of Manors, Batch 2 this is, with a large variety of previously not done Manors, this time with a focus on BR liveries, mainly BR greens and blacks as you can see, although Lyddham Manor is going to be available in Great Western Green, but that livery is exclusive to Accurascale. They are more expensive than they were before. They used to be £169.99, I think it was something like that, and now they're quite a bit more. Still reasonable compared with other manufacturers, but perhaps not the bargain model that this used to be. So if you'd like to browse the range, again, affiliate links down in the description. Right, there's quite a bit of news to talk about from Rails of Sheffield. So first of all, they've announced yet another exclusive brand new model. This time it is the LBSC 4 or 6 wheel 10-ton brake van, which is being produced for them by Rapido, ranging from the original LBSC liveries up to Southern Railway liveries. I think that's as far as they go with this. Feature-wise, they have fully modelled brake gear, separate running boards, handrails, lamp irons and chimney, etc., with detail variations to match the various liveries. They're also going to have detailed interiors containing guards desks, a stove and a brake lever, etc., plus different interiors depending on whether it's the 4 or the 6 wheel brake van. They're also going to have metal bearings, NEM pockets and 8 spoked wheels. The pricing is bonkers for these though, so £44.95 or £46.95 for the 6 wheel version, which I have to admit I am disappointed by because I did fancy getting one of these, but without any retailer discount, I do think that is far too much to pay for a brake van. Yeah, I'm not made of money, you know, but yeah, they do look nice, too expensive for me though. Up next, they've got a new James Gin product on the way. This time it is a train pack containing 3 tanker wagons in different James Gin liveries, each with a different flavour. So there's one for American Mustard, one for London Drizzle, and one California Dream Gin. And these models are going to be produced for them by Dapol. Now, unfortunately, this train pack does not come with any gin, which is a shame because I don't drink, and I think that would have made an interesting video, to say the least. But it does come with a 10% off voucher for James Gin, so I guess you get something. Still though, the pack of 3 wagons costs £74.95, which makes the wagons £25 each. And once again, this seems rather steep, as these wagons usually cost £15 odd each, meaning that you've got to pay about £30 extra to get these exclusives. Which again, I think is a real pity. I would have liked to have picked up this pack, but these are basic wagons, they shouldn't cost £25 each. Finally, the Dapol Black Label Great Western Inspection Saloons are in stock now, and these are available to buy for £149.95. Now again, this price seems absolutely shocking for a single coach, but I think actually this might be one of the best value exclusives I've talked about today. So yes, it is a fortune for a coach, but at least this time there's a lot to them. So they have interior lighting, they have working lamps, they have stay alive capacitors to keep the lighting from flickering, they've got many separate details, a realistic glossy paint finish which looks fantastic from the sample images, they've got metal chassis, not cheap plastic, that's great to see, sprung buffers, and of course a fully detailed and painted interior, which again looks amazing. So of course these are very expensive, but at least this time you do seem to get quite a lot for your money, unlike the decades old Dapol tankers. So if you want to try some of these while these stocks last, affiliate links down below. Finally then, a bit of an update from Oxford Rail. They've got some new products in stock and also some fascinating new product updates. So the first of the brand new J26s are in stock now and ready to order. We're still waiting on the pre-grouping P2 version, which I assume must be coming later then, but I am hoping to have a review of one of these quite soon. Now, we've seen a few rip-offs in this video, I think, yet the Oxford J26 is a massive breath of fresh air. At the retailers, you can pick these locos up for £110 each. And they've also been majorly improved since the J27 released some years ago, and even that was a fantastic model. The fact that they've improved it, made new tooling variations, and managed to keep the price at £110 is just astonishing to me, and I cannot wait to see these. Next, Oxford Rail posted some pretty interesting photos of their latest batch of pilchards. So this is the wagon. So this is the weathered version with a wood texture printed onto the planks. That is just awesome, isn't it? I think at least on a weathered wagon, this is a very, very good effect. And of course, it's got the basic factory weathering as well. They've even done a condemned version. Look at this, with some of the planks painted orange, which is unusual. I don't know why that's done. Is that going to be maybe to identify structurally unsound planks or something like that? I don't know, but anyway, these are massive wagons and they're available to order again from the retailers for £21.20. So once again, we have Oxford Rail leading the way in terms of value in a world of rip-offs, which firstly is fantastic to see, but it also begs the question, if Oxford Rail can do this, producing in China under the same circumstances as all the other manufacturers, how can they do this? How can they not only undercut other manufacturers, but massively undercut them as well? I don't know, but I'm very glad Oxford Rail is here. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for you today. If I did miss anything, please do comment down below and let me know, and I'll consider that for next time. For now though, have an amazing month. Happy modelling. Sounds as though we've got a lot of new modelling material coming our way, so this hobby is not going anywhere anytime soon. And I'll be back very soon with all sorts of reviews and news and whatever else is going to happen. I'll be covering it, so stay subscribed and stay tuned. Thanks again for watching, folks. You take care.